Hello, happy New Year's Eve. I wanted to get in one last scene for 2022, and I thought I would do one by request, and that was for a stormy looking scene using some lightning. I don't remember who asked for this, but whoever that was, this is for you. And thanks for making the request. And all right, so I've been using a lot of kind of alternative types of surfaces over this last year, and I haven't been stamping on too much glossy. But let's go back to that one. That type of surface here, we'll be doing it on a 10-inch by 7.5-inch surface here. And it'll be pretty simple. We're going to do, for the most part, try to make a nice dramatic sky. And I thought I would do these lightning bolts at a different angle. I'm usually doing them kind of vertical, but just to get a little bit of extra drama in the scene, I thought we'd kind of mix it up a little bit. And then for 2022, this was a new type of thing for me, using the foamies. I thought I would use that image right here in the foreground. Very basic, really all about the sky here. And let's make it as dramatic as possible, and I'll show you how to add a lot of depth to your sky types of scenarios here. All right, so blue-toned color scheme, really simple. Light, mediums, and darks, working through that values range of this given hue. Will work in the Caribbean blue, gives it a little bit of extra temperature, I guess, in terms of, an otherwise cool toned blue scene. We'll throw in the greenish Caribbean blue just to liven things up. And as far as that goes, I find that a little bit of warmth goes a long way in these pieces. Okay, so that being said, we're going to just do the background first. This image right here is largely a silhouette. We have a lot of open space down here in the rocks, but that's not going to matter. So you can just do your background first. Easy way to go. And this is going to be sky. Now, one of the things I've mentioned before in videos, as far as just starting off your pieces of, someone doesn't know where to start a scene, I always talk about kind of your foundational imagery. Be it a cabin, a waterfall, whatever it might be. Then you use your filler stamps around it. And then sky is usually the background or something like that. But sometimes your skies are your dominant visual within a given scene. So I'm going to be doing these first here, okay? You could do it after. You could stamp out your Lakeside Cove and stamp these afterwards too. Not any big deal. But the thing about this one, I'm going to use a lot of black ink on this, and I just don't want to wait for it to dry, so I'm going to stamp that last, and it's just easy to do it that way. For this type of visual scenario, you might say. So whoever's on, happy New Year to you. Didn't know if anyone would jump on, but I thought I would do this one live here. I think I just started doing the lives this year too. It seems longer, but I think it was this year. So anyways, happy New Year. Hope all's well. I'm just colored this up with a Prussian blue, and I'm going back into the bolts with a lighter blue, giving a little bit of a different change in value, hopefully, with my impressions right there. I usually go with the dark color, and then I blend in with a lighter tone. On these images that are rectangle in shape, especially in your transition zones, take a paper towel and dab off around the edge like that, especially when stamping it out with a dark color. And it just makes the blending in of this image with the surrounding imagery that much more, I don't know, whatever, graceful, easy to do, etc. Okay, let's see here. Let's go like this. Like I said, I'm going to try to make this fairly dramatic, so I'm doing these at an angle. I always stamp them vertical. I don't know if I've stamped it horizontal before, but I should one of these days. That's the way I saw it when I was out in Missouri. I never saw lightning like that before in my life, and it was awesome driving out from St. Louis to Columbia. Okay, so this is the cloud with lightning large. Let's see. Let's do another one like this. Let's go a little bit lower like this. Hello, Beth, Kay, and Karen. Happy New Year to you. This is my last scene for 2022. How did it get to be that? Seems like I was just sitting around talking about Y2K. Maybe not that much, but almost. Okay, so let's see. Ink it up. All right, now you possibly could go for a second impression of this, but I want these impressions to be nice and strong, so I've re-inked right here. Hello, Susie. Happy New Year to you. All right. Now this one, I'm going to overlap this a little bit, okay? I don't want to overlap it by, like, 3 inches or something like that. But see, there's right here, the first image is going like that. So, I don't know, it's like 1.5 inches or something like that. Quite a bit. All right. I don't know what time it is for everyone out there. Let me see. I guess in other parts of the world it could be 2023 already, huh? Are you all staying in for the night? Or anyone going out to the club? To the club and dancing to the New Year's Eve ball? All right, this is the smaller lakeside. I mean, not lakeside cabin, or lakeside cove, I should say. The smaller lightning. Let's add that in there. I'm gonna make this one a little more subdued, though. Okay, whether or not it shows up later on, I don't know. Actually, maybe I'll put it down here. I'll go like this. Go like that. I'll have this little flare out like that. I've never done that before. Let's do it. I'm thinking of kind of a time lapse. Type of photograph. It's where someone's shooting lightning. I don't know if they're keeping the shutter open. I shouldn't say time lapse. It's a time exposure where you're getting all kinds of like bolts in there. Or sometimes these days with digital, they just they sandwich in a bunch of different photographs of a lightning strike, and then that's it for that exposure. Because if they leave the shutter open for too long, it might get washed out. So they do all that. Then they kind of merge all of those different photographs together, so you see a bunch of different strikes that happened over time, all compiled into one photograph. So that's the idea that I think I'm going to go for here. Let's see how it goes. I'm stamping this big. I don't know if I've done this in a almost full page scenario before, but I thought, why not? One of the things about 2022 for me was kind of just the sheer comfort level of doing full page scenes, even 11 by 17. I don't know. I didn't do too many of those before. I'm talking about over the years. Yeah, it's largely been quarter page, half page. But I don't know, the use of the monster maps were one thing, and then these art foamies just going big. I don't know. To me, stamping these full page scenes doesn't feel really too much different than like a half page, whatever, slimline card, or like half page piece like this. I don't know. Different perspective on those pieces. Doing like an 11 by 17 before was like, it's kind of a daunting notion. But no more. Okay, so we have to fill in all this area right here. Uh, Thanks, Susie. Glad to have this software these days to be able to live stream. I used to do this other thing. I forgot what type of software it was. I did a couple live streams years back, and oh my God, it was such a hassle. I had to watch like so many different videos and just how to configure it. I forgot what type it was, and I don't know if I didn't do it a live stream every, I don't know, 2 weeks or a week maybe, I'd kind of forget how to do it. But these days I just have to hit a button, luckily. Just go live, and that's it. But thanks so much for all of you for kind of jumping in on these live streams. It's been really fun for me to. I don't feel like I'm stamping by myself now. Not that that's not a lonely process, but I don't know. It's just kind of fun chatting with other people, like-minded people, or people with the same hobby. And I learn a lot from you guys too. So I don't know. It's kind of nice to have a platform where you can just kind of throw some question out there and someone in the live is going to know about that. All right, so these are clouds I'm going to be filling in. The one thing that you don't want to do is I don't want to go over the bolts, okay? But you can come into the other clouds as much as you want here. Oh, Happy New Year to you then, Karen. Happy 2023. Out here, for me, it's 4:36 p.m. So, Happy New Year in Denmark. Awesome. That's what's really awesome about these lives, too. It's just that everyone from everywhere, Well, yeah, I mean, just the internet in general, but it's kind of fun doing this live like that. I mean, the only other lives, were in person for me. I mean, I haven't been jumping on like a Zoom over, this last couple of years too much, doing that type of thing. But I don't know, it's just really awesome. By the way, so I do want to do some live Zoom types of things once in a while too. It'd be fun doing these like stamping whatever bashes, where we can kind of have like our own, I don't know, whatever stamping. Not retreat, but just I don't know, just stamping sessions. That would be kind of fun in the live Zoom meetings. For those of you that don't want to turn on your camera, no, you don't have to. Some people don't want to turn on the camera. All right, so filling in here. All right, so I'm going with kind of a downward direction with my cloud when it's above the light source, which will be the lightning bolts. And we'll go this way. Top lit when it's underneath these bolts like that, okay? Now this area is going to get filled in with a lot of the this anyways down here. So we're just looking at some general texture. It doesn't have to be perfect. I stay in too, Beth. I don't know. I've always stayed in. I don't know if I've ever gone out anywhere for New Year's. A lot of times I had like back in the day, I'd have some people over for like dinner party and stuff like that, my hiking friends, but none of them were like the going out type, New Year's types. Unless we were out like camping or something like that. All right, filling in. Now down here, you can wipe off this surrounding area. I'm just gonna start filling in because like I said, down here, you're not really going to be able to tell. One of the things about this cloud, I have a lot of videos on this cloud. Just don't, stack it like bricks or something like that. Otherwise it will kind of look like, like bricks like this type of thing going on. So you do want to overlap and change the angle. Center type of pressure. Don't kind of rock this and get that edge really kind of, extreme. But just fill in accordingly, about like so. This is going to be a water type of scenario down here. So sometimes if I have more of the water area down below here, I'll take that stamp and I'll stamp it upside down as a reflection in the water, but we're not going to have too much space for that. Maybe I should have done it vertical. I don't know. Now I think about it. All right, so that is that. So on this scene right here, let's fill in a little bit more with a little bit of cloud in between those areas in there, like that. Okay. So I might just go like that and like that. All right. All right. So just arrange your ink colors from light to dark. If it's a blue tone scenario, just range as a blue. You can throw in a warmer tone like that. And that's always nice to expand on your temperature range of a kind of a cool tone scene. Now, one of the things I've been talking about too is I can give this kind of a base coat of, a warm tone, like one of your distress inks or something like this. This one's Peach Bellini. I've been using that on a lot of my, not on this one, but on a lot of my cooler tone scenes lately. Here's an almost 11 by 17 piece right here, but that warm tone is up here, underneath all that blue up here. So you can do that if you want to. And it'll give a little bit of warmth to those bolts right there. I don't know if I'm going to do it on this one. Let's just see how that goes. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know this is fairly wet right now. And I just don't know. I think I'd be smearing a lot of it with a warm toned color, putting back some of the imagery back into solution, where if I do it with the same colors blue, it's not going to matter, okay? But you can. Okay. Hello, Nicole in Australia. What time is it there for you, Nicole? And I should say, Happy New Year from wet Southern California. I say that because it's kind of unusual for us. But we have this winter, they called it something, what do they call it? And this new term that I've never heard of before. It's something like a weather, what was that? A river or something? I don't remember, but we're in for like this entire next week of rain, which we need really bad here in Southern California. Okay, so Summer Sky, Memento. It just happens to be one of the lighter blue tones that I have in re-inker form. I'm almost out of it. I go through my light colored re-inkers in blue really fast, so this is really empty. I have just a little bit left, and my Distress Ink Tumbled Glass is completely empty. We do a lot of blue skies and blue waters and things like that in scenic stamping, so this gets a lot of coverage as a base layer color. All right. So, all right. The one thing that you have to remember to do in this type of coloring, where you're starting off with a white piece of paper, if you're to depict lighting, you have to retain it on here. You can go back in and do certain things with like white pigment ink, but yeah, that you don't want to have to reintroduce light to a scene if you don't have to. Okay. So what you have to just do is retain it. So areas like lightning bolts, if those are to be nice and light and to represent the light source of a scene, then you just have to not go over and color them out, okay? But that being said, that's simple to do. We'll just leave our lightnings nice and light like that. If you go into it with some, you can go into it with a white paint pen too. If like, oh my God, I actually went over my bolts or something like that, okay? But where do you leave certain areas of reflected light in here? Okay, so these are clouds around here. And I stamped them out fairly light like that because I want to show you how to go back in and add additional depth using darker clouds around on the perimeter, probably. But which one of these do you leave light as a reflected light type of lighting statement on there? Well, it doesn't really matter, just as long as you leave some areas light, okay? So let's just start going in here like this, all right? So I know I want my lightning bolts to kind of stand out, but it stands to reason that some of the clouds around my bolts would be the lightest, okay? So there's kind of this little give and take here. If you make the areas around the bolt darker, then that bolt is going to seem lighter by contrast. But if you have these clouds reflecting the light too around those bolts, then you can't make them too dark. So, you can just kind of play around with it and just see what develops slowly. All right. But just in general, I definitely see a darker perimeter. I don't know if you can tell right now, but this is a really light color summer sky right here. So I'm just going around in the perimeter like this. And this is why it's nice to start off with a really nice light value, because it's not a big commitment to this hue. Okay, we're not going in with like this color of blue, that navy blue, or even this light blue right here. They call that light blue. It's more of the medium tone blue, in terms of the color schemes here. So anyway, Karen has, I have two scared dogs and my, I don't like the fire. Oh, there are a lot of fireworks around. That would be like at a big bash, like get together. I'm trying to think if, gosh, yeah. I changed my mind. I did go out one time when I was in college. There's this parade. If you guys are in the US, it's called the Rose Parade. You know that one. But I camped out there one night with my friends. I don't remember when that was. I think it was my second year in college. It might have been the first. I'm not sure. But yeah, we went down to that Rose Parade and camped out. So you can camp out along the parade route and get the best, viewing spots or whatever. And I don't know, people are going around and having fun that night and whatnot. I'm not really into that scene, so I wasn't really into it. But, the friends went and thought, okay, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it once and I'll never do it again. But it got to be the morning. I don't know. We were right on the curb, prime viewing of the parade. None of us were really into the parade, so we watched one float go by and we left. But I don't think there was any fireworks out that night, though. Not for the Rose Parade area, at least. All right, so I'm going on. That was the first color. I'm going on with the second tone right here. This is a salvia blue. It's a little bit darker. It's not a lot darker, though, right? I'm leaving a little bit of bits of light, reflected light on some of these clouds right in here, okay? Now I need to cover them up pretty good because I still have, all these other colors to run in here, and the darker I go, I don't usually go into my scene quite as far, at least with the same amount of saturation. But the only thing you have to watch out for here is that you just don't tone out everything, and it's easy to do in this type of scenario. This is what happens whenever I get people doing this type of coloring like this. They can blend in just fine, and it's really easy. At first, it's kind of strange for them, so they're getting used to it. And then they get really comfortable with it because it's, like I said, when you work it through this process of light to dark, it's really easy to do. And so when this starts getting wetter and wetter and wetter, and you start moving up into your darker tones, that darker tone spreads much easier on here because it's not getting absorbed into the paper. And so you might go like this with a really light tone because it's like that color right there by the time you get over here, from here into here. But remember, when you're starting off with something that's so much darker, that's dark blue, by the way, not black. It's just darker to begin with. So that's when people move into their darker tones, that's when they tend to kind of eradicate all their lighting within their scene. So it just means that when you get into your darker tones, just take it a little bit slower, stay on the edge longer before you go into the interior area like that. Yeah, dogs. That's when dogs tend to like run away or bust out of their house when they hear all those fireworks going on. 4th of July, things like that. There's this dog rescue YouTube station that I used to watch. I still watch it a little bit. But they're going around and finding all these dogs, I don't know, after a firework type of scenario. Sometimes they've found the owners. A lot of these dogs are just kind of strays, but a lot of them that they've caught that have owners and dog, collars, tags on them and whatnot. It's like, yeah, the dog ran away, busted out of the yard, during the fireworks. All right, so that is the salvia blue. Pretty light blue. Caribbean blues, this is where I start adding in my kind of temperature scheme into a scene. Hello, Siamakans. Let's see. Happy New Year to you. CST there. 5 more hours to go. Oh, it's 8:42 a.m. I had a good sleep in there, huh? That's a sleep in for you, huh? Well, good morning to you. Well, Karen, what time is it for you then? What time is it in Denmark? Was that where you were? Yeah. All right, so going in here, it changes the temperature a little bit. I don't know if you can tell, like, from that. This color is really close to the light blue, but it just has a little bit more temperature to it. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit greenish right there. Okay, taking it in here. Now, I don't want these lightning bolts, I don't think, on the sides here to be like as light as the main ones right in here. So I might go over them a little bit, okay, just so they're a little bit more kind of subdued and the central focus is kind of more on the interior of the piece like that, okay? It's just a little tweak. It doesn't, it's like personal preference. It's not, some kind of principle or anything like that. Oh, I didn't see that carpet cave. Made a carpet cave in the sofa and hide there with champagne and treats. You've turned a negative into a positive for those dogs there. Okay, I think that is it. I think I'm going to stay away from in here when I get into the darker tones. I don't know if this one's going to read or not, but it'll be the same color that I stamped out my clouds in there, okay? when you lay down like this amount of color onto a scene in this kind of glazing type of process right here, these are the ones that really benefit from a good spray sealing. You know, with an acrylic spray, the depth and saturation really get, oh, I won't say extreme, but well, it just depends on how this dries out. The Memento blue underneath these Marvy inks will tend to give it kind of a dull sheen in the end result. But the spray sealant will cut right through that and give it more of this, you know, kind of glossy, more saturated end result look when done. But just spray sealing your cards will, you know, it's one of the great equalizers in terms of the saturation and intensity of the different types of inks out there. It'll definitely, it I don't know, as far as I know, that it always increases the depth and saturation. I don't think a spray sealant that I've seen has ever dulled anything. I'm hesitant to say anything these days because there's so many different types of inks out there, but as far as I know, it always makes them, it kind of boosts the end result in terms of the vibrancy and everything like that, which most of us are going for in our pieces. You know, I haven't, you know, talked to too many people over the years that say, you know what I mean, my piece is just too vibrant and whatever. There might be an area or an object that's a little bit too much, you know, where they want to knock it down a bit, but just overall in terms of the end result, people are usually, you know, they want kind of something with a, you know, decent amount of saturation and color depth, you know, to their pieces. So, all right, so this is the same color that I stamped out the lightning bolts in. Okay, so when you start going over with this color out here, and you're covering up imagery stamped in this color right here, we're losing a lot of that texture up there from the cloud, okay? But I'll show you what you do in that scenario there. So this is all kind of part of the process that you do to create a lot of depth. We could have stamped out our clouds darker to begin with, but it won't have that same amount of kind of depth in the scene by having it done in multiple values. Okay, so you're using multiple values to color, and you'll do multiple values in the impressions as well. All right, this, you know, this is a pretty big card here, but I don't see it as taking, it's not going to take too long to do. We should have done a stamping, a New Year's stamping marathon. Maybe next year. All right, so there that is, like so. That is a Prussian blue, so fairly dark. Let's see here. Let me turn down my camera exposure a little bit. Okay, so let's go in and add, well, not yet here. Let's see. I was going to say, let's go in and add a little bit more depth, but let's do a little bit more of this color. Prussian blue is a really dark, rich blue. Let me see something too. Well, speaking of fireworks, I don't know if you heard that. Something just went off. It sounded like it was in front of our house. Okay, so I'm going to take this now, and we're going to stamp this one on the perimeter here and right above here, okay? So we'll get multiple tones of this texture image within the scene, okay? And this is what's really fun to do, okay? So I always tell people, at no point in time can you not go back to previous steps in your process. So you lose an image or something like that. If it's stamped out in a lighter tone, then just go back and do it with a darker tone. I use it as a strategy, so it's not so much like, oh my God, I lost my clouds up there. So it really works for things like skies, okay? Because you stamp a sky on a white piece of paper, it's really standing out. But if you really want to make those sky figures stand out, a sun, Milky Way, anything like that, stars, you got to bring that color into it somehow with whatever color, addition methodology that you're using process. But then you just go back in and you determine at a later time, when more of your piece is stamped out, if you want to go back in and enhance the imagery back again. So it's like you're just balancing things out based on what you see happening on the card, okay? Let's see here. Hello, Debbie. Happy New Year to you. Laura, Happy New Year. Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing later here. I said, okay, I'm going to do a live stream. I want to get in one last card, and I said, we'll eat later. Okay, so going in with this right here. Had to do so it's almost as childhood building caves. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking when you said that, I was thinking about my kid would always build forts, and stuff like that. Sometimes we'd build huge forts, and he would have his friends stay over and sleep in. But that's what I was thinking about with your what was that? The carpet cave or something like that. That sounds like a lot of fun. That was something I enjoyed doing a lot when I was a kid. One of my I don't know, favorite pastimes was like, they call it fort building here, Okay, so filling in like that. Okay. So you see the difference between over here and over here, like that. Let's see. I mean, we can go in over here too, because we're stamping this out now in the same color that we blended in here. If we can't see that, you can always go to black too. So you can even kind of push the depth even more. Yeah, I can see that, the fireworks at midnight going off. I don't see too many people doing fireworks at their houses during New Year's. I'm sure it happens all the time. That's why those dogs are running off and stuff like that. But usually the 4th of July for us, is the fireworks time, and kind of the if New Year, New Year's in terms of like larger kind of public get-togethers would be where they were doing the fireworks displays a lot of times here. Oh gosh, I remember one time. It's like for 2000, 1999 to 2000. I remember we were trying to think of what we were going to do, and there were different areas. I lived in LA at the time, Los Angeles, and there wasn't really an area that you go to there. Not that I'd be terribly interested, but I remember seeing like Las Vegas was having this big, huge celebration out there back then. And I don't know, I ended up not doing anything, but I was also sick with the flu back then. I remember my sister and I were talking about, hey, you want to get together or something like that, possibly. What are you doing for New Year's? And I don't know. It never came to anything, but and then I remember she and I always joke about it that we called, and spoke that night, and it was like both of us were like really sick. Not COVID back then. All right, so anyways, those are those clouds like that. It almost looks like a bat or something looks like the Batman signal up there or something like that. All right. Let's see. Let's stick with that right there. And what I want to do is I want to deepen the perimeter. Again, after you stamp your imagery out, sometimes it looks a little bit too busy. So you go back in and you just blend it in a little bit more. Okay. It's 1:52 after midnight, so it's one. Okay, so it's now 2:05 a.m. there in Denmark, huh? Hello, Jen. Happy New Year to you. Crafting Rose, Happy New Year. And let's see, Candy, Happy New Year to you. I didn't know if you. Hope everyone's having a great time. Wish you all the best stamping wishes in 2023. May it be your best stamping year yet. I don't think I've ever had like any stamping resolutions. I need to emboss more. That being said, I do need to emboss more. We need to bring embossing back, I think, a little bit, to some extent. That was so much fun for everyone. It's what got a lot of people into stamping was during a certain period of time was embossing. I still talk to people all the time that have been stamping for a long time, and that's always brought up. I don't ask them either, but it's just like, when did you start stamping? And a lot of times people can remember their first stamp too, which is always amazing. I guess I can too. As far as rubber stamps, I had a kit when I was a kid. I think it was All Night Media, and it was back in the 70s. Okay, so that is more of the Prussian blue, which is a very, very dark. I was going to try that blueprint sketch. It's such a different tone, though. Sometimes it doesn't blend in really well with my other colors that I've already applied on here, but let's just go ahead and do it anyways. Okay, so blueprint sketch, one of the darker blues out there. Happiness is a new ink pad, or a fresh, a nice filled bottle of re-inker. All right, let's try this blueprint sketch here. Ooh, that is really... Blueprint sketch, it's really bright. It's one of those distressings too. I don't know if anyone has that, but I don't have the pad. But I have a feeling that this blueprint sketch is also kind of similar to, yeah, look at that. Prussian blue is like really, really dark. Now this is drying over here already, but I don't know if you can see, but that is a really deep version of blue. I always love to have a huge range of blues to work with. As far as brightness goes, Marvies have some of the brighter tones. And when I suggest to people that are looking into possibly supplementing the colors that they already have with a few Marvy tones, I always bring up like these two colors right here because they're super bright. So you can get that nice kind of glowing look coming through your whatever darker tones, etc. Okay. I'm in kind of encroaching on my lighter areas with these darker tones, so I need to be a little bit careful, but I'm working with a pretty dry version of that ink that's already on there, so yeah. Been cooking our Chinese dishes all day. Sounds good, Candy? All right. That's what I'm looking for right there. I think I'm starting to get it right in that area. Sometimes it looks like, it can almost be like a landscape in the sky in some ways. Kind of a abstract landscape or something like that, but you can get a lot of depth in these areas like that. Okay, and let's see. I'm starting to see a little bit of movement too. Maybe I can get a little bit of movement in there just by kind of manipulating this, paper towel. All right, so I think let's go with the black now, and let's see what we can come up with here. Redecorate your craft room, huh? Lost the overview of my stamps, dies, and papers. I think that's what I did. I can't remember if it was last year or if it was the year before, but I really, I think it was this year. I organized my papers especially. I generally knew where things were, but I had to get those things organized. I had to get my metallic papers together. The card stocks, the colored papers together, and then I organized some of my supplies too. I had like reinkers just in different areas and whatnot. I still need to get those tweaked a little bit to get those further organized, but yeah. And that's made things much easier for me, especially in terms of the papers, because I had a lot of stuff stacked up too, like reams and reams of stuff. And, getting stuff at the bottom of it, and whatnot. So I got those a little bit more organized, not super organized, but just enough for, my purposes. All right, so here's what the black is looking like here. All right, so get that nice richness up there. You kind of have to apply it a few times. It's not going to get super dark because this area up here is really wet, so you're tapping wet into wet, so it's not transferring immediately, which makes it easier to blend, but it takes a little bit longer to apply on there because it's just, like I said, you have a surface and pulp that they're not super saturated, but it's kind of moving in that direction. Now, if you're doing this with all, let's say, distress inks, Memento, something like that, those inks are all going to be thicker than Marvy inks in general. I'm using some of the distress in there, and I use the, that Memento Summer Sky as my base coat. So there's different inks in here, but those tend to be thicker mementos, Marvies, but you know, not Marvies, but anything but Marvie is going to be thick. So you might have to heat set this a little bit if you're doing this type of, you know, this degree of layering on here, because you're going to run into a really thickly applied and still wet on the surface piece if you're doing it with solely those other brands of inks. Okay, the Marvies are thinner, so they're able to penetrate kind of a thicker buildup on the surface a little bit faster, and then they're thinner, so they're going to be evaporating faster. But just, you know, heat set, or, you know, get to a certain point and just let it air dry for, you know, 10, 15 minutes or something like that, and go back to it. I don't, you don't want to air, you don't want it like completely dry, because if it's still a little bit moist, as you're applying these colors like this, if it's still a little moist, it blends out so much easier for you. So just, you know, enough to where it's transferring onto the surface. Okay. All right, so this is black. I'm trying to think if I want to use some black impressions of those clouds on the corners like that. I don't know if it's going to really show up, so it might be pointless. I mean, I could try it here, but let's give it a try here. Blot off this edge right here. Let's go like this. Yeah, it gets a little bit deeper, but I don't know how much of that's going to show up right there once that dries. Okay, maybe it'll show up, you know, if I spray seal it, but actually it looks pretty good, I think. Let's do that. We don't need a huge amount of these impressions, just because, you know, it's not going to show up in a lot of areas, but let's see. And this area is going to get, a lot of it's going to get covered too, so I'm not sure if, you know, I probably don't need it down here at all. But let's try it right here. I mean, it depends how far I go up into my scene too. If I have it out here, I don't think we'll be able to see it because it's all dark. So let's go up here. Like so. I think that looks pretty good. I think that'll give us some good depth in the sky. So this will end up being 3 different values of clouds in our sky. Okay. And then once again, I'll layer some of this black in there just so it doesn't look so busy up here. I don't always do my lightning in scenes like that. I'm going a little bit extreme on this one. Just because it's like my last scene of the year. And you know, it's a large scene, so I really want to really push, you know, depth, you know, to the extreme on this one. And I mean, once you get this background down too, I mean, that's most of the work of this scene anyway, so, you know, it's just stamping out the scene on there, adding a few little kind of embellishments on there over the top of it. Okay, so that being said, let's add a little bit of warmth into here. Let's see. Let's go with, my fingers are nice and inky. Let's go with a little bit of that warmth. Okay, so I was thinking about this. Maybe the thing that I'll use. Okay, instead of that, actually, let's do a little bit of tone with our alcohol inks. Okay, I can be more exacting with that and get a really, really thin layer. And these shouldn't mix with the water-based, dye-based inks too, so yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, Susie. I think, yeah, the blueprint sketch has a little bit of that purple in it, so, yeah. Very slight, but I can't. Yeah, I can see some of that in here too. So I don't know. I guess it bent the color scheme a little bit. So when you add a little bit of that Caribbean blue, here's the blues right here, and you're going into the greens a little bit. So that blueprint sketch went into the violets a little bit too. So every little kind of tweak on the color scheme like that kind of expands on the potential richness, I guess, of the piece. All right, so let's see here. Let's add a little bit of. This is almost like, it's beige, but it's almost more like a warm white, if anything. Okay. Go into some of our bolts, I guess, right around here. Where I go over some of those blue areas, it looks a little bit more green because of the warm tone in this. I still want to keep a lot of the white, though, because I want to do some white types of embellishment on here in terms of detailed applications with the paint pens and some real soft applications of white with the white pigment ink. Okay. Actually, that looks pretty good. It looks pretty good, like, especially like up in here. I mean, it's really super subtle. I don't know if you can tell that we're watching this video, but I don't know if well, let's see. Let me go in this next one. If it goes, I don't want to jump up too much in value. It's just making it slightly warmer. That's one of the good things about these alcohol pens is they come in like every percentage base, value of a given hue. I don't know what this is. It's like a 5%, if that, of an orangish tinge. This one might be a little bit too much. This is camel. Okay, that one's too extreme. What is this right here? Pale green. Okay, I thought this was yellow. This is pale green here. Huh. That influences a little bit more than I thought it would. I doubt if you guys can see it, but it's a little bit more of a glow in there, I think. Some of those areas like that. Okay. All right, I won't go any more than that. I think I'll leave it at that. I did bring out my other blue pens in case I needed it, but I don't think we need to do any coloring in here with blue. I think we've already done it enough with the dye-based inks. Hello, Harold. Happy New Year to you both. You're going out with Linda on the town. Let's see, what time is it right there? 8:23 for you guys. Well, you guys still have time for that, for going out to the club. Okay, let's see here. Should I go into... Hello, Rhonda. Happy New Year to you. Inventory finally done. One of the biggest stamp stores that ever existed was Stampa Barbara. And I remember they used to have this call for kind of volunteers to do inventory. And it was somewhere around, New Year's, something like that. It wasn't New Year's Eve or something like that, but I remember they had, there were so many stampers that went in to help inventory all their stuff. I don't know how many, they had a gazillion stamps. It would have been interesting to see a photograph, see things like that. I wish the owner for Stampa Barbara, I wish he documented all those types of things because it's kind of like rubber stamp history. All right, so let's see. I'm going to re-ink my black pad here. I've re-inked this black pad more often than I ever do with the use of these foamies right here, because I'm not sure how inked up these are when I'm inking them up. Because not only is it black, it's absorbent foam, so I just want to make sure, you know, anytime I'm stamping out a large stamp like this too, it's a fairly significant part of the card, the scene. So it's like, all right, this better be inked up here. So I'm sure I'm way over inking this, these stamps when I'm using them. In fact, most of the times it occurs to me that I could probably get like another like 2 or 3 impressions out of it. It seems so sopping wet. All right, so let's see. I'm going to put this, fairly central on this. I hope I just didn't double stamp this side right there, because as I touched it down, it kind of went like that. All right, let's hold this down for a little bit longer to let that ink transfer. My normal process when stamping dye-based inks on glossy cardstock. But I've had to change up so much with the things like the the printable vinyls and stuff like that. If you hold your stamp down too long, it's like stuck like glue to it or something like that, or stamping with the the stays on inks and it drying so fast and it adhering to the surface. All right, there we go. It looks like a much smaller scene when using these foamies like this. So this is like the size of the card right here. All right, so should I go for, let's see, let's do, like I said, I don't even know if I need to. I can see it's like super juicy of an impression right there. There you go, another little bit right here. It didn't cover the entire span from edge to edge right here. 10 inches, but almost. So I'm getting this little extra ½ inch of a tree in there. But I stamped it. There was like about a ½ inch right here, but I overlapped the previous impression. So I'm stamping this more like an inch in here. For those on metric, I don't know what that is. The biggest thing is just to overlap anything. That's the way these stamps were designed to be used. You don't have to line things up perfectly. You want to overlap sufficiently rather than lining them up carefully, okay? You don't want to overlap by 50% or something like that, but, still a pretty decent amount. And then you'll never have a bunch of spaces in between your objects that you'll have to fill in additionally. If you do get gaps, then you just fill it in with more color or something like that, and it's no big deal. But anyways, all right, so there's that. Okay. And let's go in. At this point in time, maybe I will heat set this a little bit because I want to go in and model these rocks a little bit with a little bit more tone and shadow. And if I go right now, this image is really, really wet. Okay, what I'm debating in my head is if I want to utilize that wet ink to just kind of go in, but I think I want a nice crisp imagery. Hello, Jeannie. Are you back from eating, or did you guys? You have yet to go out. All right. This isn't completely dry here, but I think it's dry enough here. I do. There's a lot of clouds showing through these rocks, but to me, that's not any really big deal. But I do want to model this a little bit more. I want to get a little bit of tone. You can do this, maybe, the alcohol inks would be good too, but this impression of this cove right back in here on those rocks, it's really, really wet with that dye-based ink, where the alcohol inks won't physically mix with it, but it can smear, wet ink, no problem. So I think I want to be careful about that. All right, so adding a little bit more shadow work down here at the base of those rocks. I'll try to use a light touch to come in here a little bit, like about like that. I guess that kind of did it. I don't know if you can tell, but I put a little bit of a gray toned, like that type of thing is going across the bottom part of those rocks, where I left the top part of the rocks a little bit lighter to be reflective of, reflecting light from the lightning strikes. All right, so this imagery is stamped out too. Let's blend that in a little bit more too now. Probably the largest lightning scene I've ever done. All right, I might go with those pens there that I just put away here. Let's go to this one. This is probably a lighter version of that blueprint sketch. It has a little bit of red in it, like that. Here's just more of a neutral blue, probably really reminiscent of that, this one right here, okay? So let's go in and add a little bit more shadow work down here at the base of these rocks. Yeah, that ink is really wet in here, so I just smeared it, but I just used it to tone the bottom of those rocks. But it's kind of physically mixing with it just because the dye-based inks are really wet still. But see that right there? I anchored down that bottom part like that with a little bit of additional tone like that. I'm a little bit worried to go in here. I'd like to go in here in that underneath those rocks, but those little black reflections of those trees down in there, I'm almost sure those are still wet. Well, yeah, see, I'm going into it and it's like wiping the ink off of it. So it's still a little bit wet, so I want to be careful about that. Or just don't, you know what I mean? Just don't lose that right there. So this paper is like noticeably heavier too, with all those dye-based inks on there, and with the ink still, in solution on the surface and in the pulp of the paper, it's still wet. Let's go add in a little bit of foreground here. There's not room for much of it here, but let's see. I added more than I thought I would down there because I liked what I saw. that. Okay, so those little reeds down there like that. If it was lighter down here, I would do the reeds in two colors. I would do it in blue and black, like that. Well, there's other things we can do in here. I can add some intermediate trees in the background here, but I'm not sure if I want to do that because I want to lighten up some of these clouds a little bit with white pigment ink. That's going to go like right down into here, giving this kind of little cloud bank a little bit of a reflected soft light type of look. And I think trees in between the four, these trees right here and the clouds would just kind of get in the way. All right, let's add in those embellishments in here, and this should be, pretty well done here. White, I got these pens ready right here. Different heat values of blue. Yeah, let's go ahead. Okay, so I wasn't going to do this. I was thinking, I can see those clouds up there pretty good. So sometimes if they're pretty well defined like that, I don't highlight them too much. Or I don't feel like I need to because I don't need to bring them out from the background. Like that stands out, just fine as is. But I don't know, let's bring in some more detail into the scene. We are celebrating just having power. That's what I always say, Harold. When I was out your way teaching classes in your store, you guys were talking about, maybe not you, but customers. Your customers were saying, yeah, we lost power for, whatever, last year. Went out for like a week or something like that. Or, I don't know. It didn't seem like it was like too out of the ordinary to lose power for several days once in a while. So everything is by, perception is by contrast. So if we lose power out here in Southern California, you know what I mean? For a few hours or something like that, not a big deal. After I heard that, stuff going out for like a week or something like that, in Maine during the winter. All right, so this is a dark, well, it's not a dark blue, but it's like a medium blue, so I'm adding these little highlights in my clouds, okay? They don't stand out too much, but that's what I want from these ones. If I did these little highlights in white, it would be a little bit extreme, okay? So if you're adding highlights into a darker area, okay, or objects, you're saying that there's not too much light hitting this area because it's already dark, but you can add a little bit of, highlighting with a darker color, okay? So I didn't have like a full range of pens back in the day, so I wasn't, doing things quite as nuanced as I might these days. Not all the time. I don't always do this, but darker highlights in the darker areas and objects. Okay, so like this tree here, that's very much in the darkness right here. I can put a few highlights in it just to kind of bring it out from the background, but it's not an extreme highlight. So it doesn't look so out of place as like a white highlight would. I don't know if you can see that right there. I need to be careful here as I'm putting my hand down here. All those reeds are like really wet right near. Okay, now see this right in here. Well, maybe on this rock right here, but for the most part, these rocks in this more well-lit area right here, because it's kind of lighter right in here, this really doesn't stand out. You can't really see it, so we're going to have to go to, a lighter value, maybe even to white. Well, this light blue stands out pretty good. It's a very light blue. It's probably like, I don't know, it looks like a, I don't know, 4%, 3% blue or something like that. It's so light. It, like I said, it's almost like with the other one, it was almost like a warm white, you know, that pen. This is almost like a cool white here. It's like even lighter than like eggshell, I think. Okay, and we can put a few little highlights up here. Maybe I'll go closer to my light source with the lighter highlights. Like that. I tend to go overboard with this. I'm trying to hold back a little bit in this case, which is what I never tell people to do. I always just say go for it, you know. Hello, Kathy in Australia. I don't know who you can get the foamies from there in Australia. I'm trying to talk art foamies into just shipping internationally, but I don't know if they can get like a distributor down there. That would be awesome for you know foamies in general. So they are. It's just art foamies. You know, I think it's artfoamies.com, right? Or is it net? I can't remember. But yeah, I know they were getting someone in like Europe to carry them. Okay, so here's the white. See down here in the you know little rocks and whatnot. Okay. The one thing about the foamies though, they're super lightweight, of course, good for shipping, but there's a lot of volume to them. Not good for shipping, you know. But one of the good things, though, like I was telling Art Foamies of this shipping company that I've been using over this last year, I think I'd say, or so. But it's called Pirate Ship. I think it's pirateship.com. And they have some really great deals on international shipping, like UPS of all things. You know, there's to some countries, it's UPS expedited, I think, which is really expensive. It's like 70% off by going through this pirate ship thing, who has contracts with UPS, I'm sure, you know, discounted, you know, volume based contracts, or rates, I should say. And they pass that along to the customers that utilize their sites. So I don't know. I think that would open up some doors for them. I need to talk with them and ask them if they've looked into that, because I was shocked that they didn't ship internationally for foamies. Okay, so adding in some little highlights, it makes it a little bit more shimmery and whatnot. I don't know if you can tell that, but it's like up here in the sky, kind of reflecting some of that light coming out from that. This is where I'd also go into my lightning bolts if I lost a lot of the lightness of the bolts like that by adding tone over the top of it, which a lot of times it happens, you know. This is where I would just add it back in with the white paint pen. Or sometimes you just want that area a little bit warmer in the background. So rather than kind of working around the bolts, you just color in the bolts and then just reclaim the whiteness with the white paint pens. Okay. Oh, Harold's in Maine. Oh, yeah, there you go. West Rockport, Maine, 10 minutes from the hospital. Okay, so Harold, you're saying that you were out of power here. Wait, worst ever we have seen. What do you mean, like this last week or something like that? Or I haven't been following the news if you guys lost power up there, if that made the news. But that sounded bad enough when I was out your way. What was that? I don't know, like what was it, 20 years ago? That's why I said I'll never complain about the weather again. Not that I ever did, but you know, I know we have it good here in Southern California. There's nothing to complain about, you know. But when you out there to Maine and they're losing like power out there, like sometimes like oh whatever a week or whatever like that during the winter time, it's like extra, you know, perspective. All right, so I'm making this bolt here. Can you see that right there? That I can't zoom in too close here because it starts going all out of focus right here. But I'd like to give my light sources like extra texture, okay? So, and glow to them, okay? So I'm putting a little bit of white pigment ink over, I don't do it over all everything, but I'm doing it over this like this main bolt right there. So you can see it, the difference between that and that right there. I just think that that looks, I don't know, it looks more realistic to me, I guess, because it's, you'd get that lighting within there kind of illuminating all of that moisture in the air. So that's what this kind of looks like to me, more than just say, you know, the straight impression would create. So you're kind of embellishing your impression. I guess it's the negative space because I made my lightning bolts the negative space so that it would be light, you know, within darkness. All right, so you got that happening like that. That's where that kind of that softer light comes into play like that. Okay. And now we'll change the textural, or we'll expand on the textural kind of range of this area down here, reflecting that light. Okay. Yeah, if the power was out here a week, um, it wouldn't even take a week here. But I always say that I don't complain about it, but it would be tough. Hello, Julie. Oh, you're in Sacramento. Yeah, yeah, we're getting we're hopefully our reservoirs fill up there, vintage scrap girl. It seems strange, you know. What was that? What was that dam up? That was that spillway collapse. Just it seemed like it was just I don't know. Has it been like 3 or 4 years? You know, but massive droughts the rest of the time. I haven't been up Sacramento way in a while. I used to teach in I wouldn't say I used to teach. I taught like in Elk Grove and Folsom a couple times. I don't know if I ever had a store like in Sacramento though. And of course there was that what was that retreat there in Yosemite over at I think it was Bass Lake, Oroville. Yeah, I hope we need really a. I think we need. Someone was saying that I think we need about three more of these types of storms that are coming in to really help out with the drought. You know, and all the reservoirs and stuff like that. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you, Oroville. Yeah, man, that was something. All right, so here comes the kind of that softer light down there. Hopefully you can see that kind of glow starting to happen on those clouds. So you kind of, I'm being a little bit careful down here just in case some of these, I think these are pretty well dry now. Okay, I can go into them. All right, so I feel that this really kind of illuminates these clouds really nicely, just to go over it with a really thin layer of pigment ink like this. This is the Brilliance pigment ink. You can use whatever ink you want. Actually, that tree right there was a little bit wet, so I do need to be a little bit careful here. If I wasn't in a live stream, I would just wait for these to dry like a half an hour or more or something like that, and I think that would be good, but we'll just try to avoid that as much as possible. So just kind of adding this little bit of this, I don't know, nice soft glow lighting around in there to be illuminated by that lightning. I think it makes it more, I don't know, textural, and it is white, so it is more illuminated too. Okay. But let's put a little bit of this down here in terms of a textural change, and hopefully that this area down here is dry enough. Let's give it a try. I don't know if it is, but let's give it a try here. Yeah, it looks okay. See that right down there? I mean, it's really kind of creating that mist on the lake, and it's also being illuminated. You know, you're creating extra light to be illuminated by those, your light sources in this scene, which is the lightning strikes in this case. So yeah, it kind of expands on that textural range of the entire scene when you do that. And let's see if I can get this in here without smearing any of these images. Just kind of going in, I'm going in between some of these trees like that to kind of push those smaller ones a little bit farther back visually in the distance like that. When you do a little bit of like little oscillations like that, you know, and just kind of lighten up some images like that, it just kind of pushes them back a little bit. So when you get, you know, just, you know, this one stamp is just stamped out in black, but you can kind of push and pull distance with a little bit of something like this. You know, you can pull things out from, you know, with a highlight too. So it makes it so that kind of monochromatic, you know, impressions, in this case just black, one in black impression, it doesn't look so, you know, flat. I mean, there's, you know, there's scale in here too. These trees are in the distance like that, so it looks like it goes back, but you can push it more just by the use of these additive types of processes. I could have done it too, you know, if you take something like this and you ink it all up and you blot off some of that color, you can stamp it out and it'll be lighter in there. But when you do it this way, you know, after the fact, it's easier to control how light and dark you put it. So sometimes, like, you know, if I wipe this off, I don't know really how dark it's going to stamp out or how light, okay? If it stamps out a little bit too dark, that's fine because I can go back in with the white ink. But if it's stamped out too light in there, you know, that wouldn't be too good. Okay, so I think that is about it here. A little bit of framing off of this will be good. Yeah, let's see. As this ink's drying on here, it's getting much, as the pigment ink dries, it gets much more see-through, so it's not as light. So go back in and just adjust it accordingly. Adjust accordingly by just adding more on there if you want. And then one of the things too that I mentioned when I'm spray sealing these pieces, wherever I've added a lot of the white pigment ink like that, see, it's like just a real subtle kind of layer of this ink on there. That stands to disappear sometimes if you coat it too thick. So you just want to give it a short burst in this area so that when that spray sealant hits that, it almost dries instantly and doesn't put that ink back into solution. It makes it, kind of transparent almost. I kind of like this white right in here, so I'm adding quite a bit more here now that I look at it. I was talking to my sister up there, Jeannie, and they were talking about people were going out for a walk, and a lot of people were getting injured slipping on ice. Just going and walking around the neighborhood in Seattle. I was saying, yeah, they probably need to go with micro spikes if there was a little bit of snow on there, but there's ice underneath there. Let's see. Kathy, you lost power last Christmas. Oh, in the middle of summer with those rolling blackouts or something like that. Ice showers and dumpsters so we can dispose of contents of fridges. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. Yeah, Lake Mead, that is really something. I've watched a lot of videos on the state of Lake Mead and kind of the potential dangers coming up with that. Um, from it going, even lower and whatnot. I'm hoping that we can get some water in there with this latest storm coming through. I think all the storms out here that we've had this year, I think they've just been like one day, and gone. I, I I don't know. There might have been other ones, but I seem to that's the only ones I seem to recall. It's like here one day, gone the next. I thought we need like a several days of some good showers coming in. And now we have it, luckily. All right, so I think that is it right there. Let me take a look at the surrounding areas here. That area right in here stayed pretty dark. Okay. So I guess, I don't know, all that layering on there. It would, being that it's not raining so far, I might take this out and spray seal it. Sometimes I do think that if you hit these with a sealant before they dry, they tend to retain more of the saturation. Because if I let this dry completely, it would probably dry with a little bit of a dull sheen to it. And then when I spray seal it, sometimes it's like when it's wet with the spray sealant, it it looks like, kind of a wet, freshly stamped scene full of the depth and saturation of the colors. But sometimes when it dries, I think it goes in between what it looked like and freshly sealed. Whereas just, if you spray seal it right now, I think it just tends to retain kind of the look as it looks, when freshly stamped. Okay, now some pads too, like I said, whatever they have in them, they dry much duller to begin with. So there's more, I don't know, something in the binder. And I take it it's probably whatever makes those inks nice and thick so that they don't pour out of the pad, the raised dye base pads. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, spray seal your pieces, and it just it protects and beautifies. So I think that's a good idea to do. Oh, let's see here. Rain all week in upstate New York. I loved upstate New York when I toured through there. Incredibly beautiful countryside, that's for sure. Amazed. And then I drove, I'm just on the interstate there, driving around, in some of those small towns around there. And then I drove into that Adirondack region just for the day and was astounded. My God, you know, uh, incredible. Glad you like it, Debbie. Super blue. You see that little warmth in there too of that maybe with the pens, the alcohol pens or something like that, but it could have been the Caribbean blue right there. I think that little bit of warmth in there really helps it. I don't know if you can see it still. I mean, it's really subtle, but that was that little bit of tinge of like a beigeish warmth right in here. So I don't know. Here's like a piece of white paper right here. Just that little bit of warmth on there, I think, kind of tweaked it. I can see it here. It's really, really subtle. It's like a 2%, I don't know, whatever, beige tone or something like that. But you can see a little bit more of it right here. But that little tweak on the difference between cold and warm like that, I think really expands just enough on the temperature range so that if you do add those little bit of warmer tinges in an otherwise cool kind of spectrum, it helps it out just in terms of the overall richness. You can see it's a little bit warmer up there, a little cooler here. That it would have looked like all this, I should say, without those little warm tweaks in there. So the more that I look at it, the more I'm concentrating on that warmth, that more that tends to stand out. But I think if you gave this piece, someone a scene like this with that same type of color scheme and those little temperature tweaks like that, I don't know if they would really notice it or not. But I think, like consciously, but I think it would look better. So that's those types of things that you can do with like moons too, if you want to add a little bit of temperature in it. If you do add temperature, it's like someone's thinking about like a warm color moon or a yellow moon or something like that. Just make sure that when you do that, when you do your light sources, still try to keep them as light as the lightest things within a scheme. So if you're doing a moon and there's an area of white out here, but you make the moon kind of yellowish, it's no longer going to be your light source of the scene. So just make sure that's a little bit as, light or lighter than the lightest of areas. Okay. And it'll still be reflective of a light source of a scene. I mean, in here, maybe those clouds would look a little bit better if it was a little bit darker in impression, but I kind of like that lighter tinge in there just because I need to make these trees stand out a little bit more. And if they were that tone of blue, the same as that, you wouldn't be able to see the silhouette of these. So you just have to kind of adjust accordingly, and make your kind of whatever your artistic um, what's that word I'm looking for? Not artistic freedom, but artistic liberties, or whatever, based on whatever's going to benefit the imagery and the overall look there. Let's see. Karen, we haven't had drought at all. That's good. Hope some people have had like too much rain. I haven't. One of my customers in the UK, their like warehouse got flooded out. The Sweet Poppy stencils, they had an issue there. Luckily, not too bad, but and I don't think I've known anyone. I might have known one or two people personally that were flooded out somewhere. I'm talking about like customers or something like that, not just like someone that knew someone that knew someone. But I don't know. There's been some bad floods in certain areas too. But anyway, my last scene of 2022. It's been a fun year of a lot of experimentation and exploration of media. If you've been a viewer of this channel, you've seen it all because I record everything in a it's sometimes a little bit hectic, for me, trying something completely new, you know what I mean? And not knowing which direction it's going, but I've really enjoyed the entire process of the holographics, the printable vinyls, the the foamies, the art foamies there. That's been fun. But it's, just exploring some different stuff. Some of the stuff, exploring stuff that's been out there for 20 years, 30 years. I hadn't done a lot of embossing, over these years. But I started doing a little bit more of that, and then like just simple things like using StazOn inks for my like mirror cards and things like that, which I've kind of avoided in the past, but just utilizing stuff for the strength of whatever their characteristics are. So I plan on utilizing that going forward. More artistic license, thank you, Harold. CM. So someone always knows what we're talking about here. Media and I don't know, whatever, talking wise. Thanks, Jen. Glad you liked it. I got to think of something to do. The first scene of the year. So this is my last scene of the year. I'll have to think of a first scene of the year. So I did this one because someone was asking. Someone had asked about lightning bolts a couple times in these live streams, so I wanted to get that in there. Thanks, Joy. Yeah, I don't know. I got to think of something to do as my first scene of the year. I thought about going with the printable holographic, but I just did that one. So then I thought about some more of the crazy holographic cardstock and doing something with that, because that would be something that was kind of I don't know, something characteristic of the year's experiments too. But I thought, let's go back to the basics here with just a nice, rich, super deep, saturated, glossy cardstock piece. So a lot of people haven't used glossy cardstocks before. If you have, kind of the means, by which to get that, sometimes it's not so available like in other countries these days where it used to be, because there used to be stores everywhere and everyone carried it back in the day. But I don't know. I gotta find a source for like things like glossy cardstock in like every region, so that we can post it somewhere. That people can get it if they feel inclined. Because there's nothing more malleable and potentially rich as glossy cardstock, because it's malleable in terms of you can take it in whatever direction you want, and things like saturation and values can get so much more extreme on glossy cardstock, because it keeps your media the most surface oriented than the more absorbent types of semi-glosses or mattes. Mattes opened up other types of media to us, but if you want to go for like just sheer, kind of impact, that's what they tend to use on movie posters and book covers and all that type of stuff. It's usually glossy cardstock because of the sheer impact that their inks can provide. And then, you spray seal this over and, it gets even a little bit more extreme for that. So anyway, oh, fireworks. That's a good idea, Rhonda. I do have this one stamp called Fountain of Light, where people have used that as fireworks in the past. Or I could do something like a deep space type of thing where, like nebula and stuff like that almost looks like, fireworks or something of that sort. So yeah, that's a good idea. Or maybe we can combine it, with something kind of nuts like this. I never know what, I've been using this stuff and it always comes out seemingly okay. But this paper is still a little bit intimidating to me to use sometimes, because I really don't know where some, usage of imagery is going to go on that type of paper. It's so crazy and extreme. So, but it's always an adventure. It's like going on a, roller coaster ride, during the process of that. But yeah, fireworks would be really cool. Let me think about that one. I have to think about that. Yeah, maybe the Fountain of Light or something like that. I wanted to use some of that not too long ago, but I just didn't get around to it. I forgot what it was for. Yeah, I don't know. We'll think of something. Anyway, so whatever time it is for you guys, I hope you have a great rest of evening. It's already 2023 New Year's in Denmark, if they're still here. All of us have a little bit more time to go out here in the West, so hope you have a great one, a nice safe time. If you're going to go out and hit the clubs, like a Harold out there in Maine, hitting the nightclubs all night, you know, drive safe out there. And yeah, have a great rest of evening. It makes me dizzy too, Sam. Sometimes when I was thinking about that, I think it was messing up with my my depth perception. Sometimes when I was looking, I think when I was looking at the 8.5 by 11 piece that I did on there, like that, it was I don't know, that holographic kind of depth. It seems like it was I don't know, it was nuts a little bit, but fun. All right, Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for checking out the channel, you know, and these live streams and whatnot in 2022 and supporting the line of Stampscapes and whatnot. Always enjoy seeing what everyone else is doing with the pieces too. So thanks as always, and hopefully we'll have see you again in the live streams in 2023. That will be 6 hours for me here. So we'll see you in 6 hours with that firework piece. Just kidding. We'll see you, I don't know, whenever, tomorrow, whatnot, whenever we're back on again. Thanks, Phyllis. Good to see you. Happy rest of evening to everyone. Stay safe and healthy and dry, but we need the rain out here too. So indoors dry, outdoors wet. Bye, everyone.